Well, the topic of tech addiction is grabbing the attention of parents, teachers, and even tech giants. This includes consumer hardware veteran Tony Fadell. Serious concerns continue to circle the tech industry about being addicted to your smartphone or being absorbed by social media. We sat down with the former Apple and Alphabet exec and asked Fadell, who also co-founded Nest, how he's handling this issue as one of the creators behind the original iPhone.
I look at this as a whole set of unintended consequences that allowed kids and adults, this is not just a kids thing, it's adults, to be on them all the time, if they so choose. And so what we do is we have things like tech-free Sundays where the family is off of electronics, including the parents, and we do other things together. Not that tech's bad, but there's times when we should just be face-to-face and talking about things and doing things together without screens sometimes coming between us. So we do that. We have screen time limits. It's difficult because we don't have many controls today to do that. And we also look at our behaviors with screens at night. Are the screens in the kids' rooms or not? Are the screens in the parents' rooms or not? These kinds of things to understand that moderating use of these devices.
What do you think the actual impact is on adults and, even more importantly, on children?
Well, I really look at this as I'm not a researcher, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not looking at it as the addiction per se. I have seen stories and I have friends who've had kids with addiction issues as well as adults with digital addiction issues. But I really look at this as, we need to have tools and data, information to allow us to understand how we consume digital media. And if we look at this and draw the parallels with something like food. Think about food. Today we have scales so we can measure our weight. We have nutritional information on the side of boxes and different foods so we know what's in there. We have programs to allow us to control our eating habits. We have definitions for words like what's a protein, right? So what's a protein in a digital world, right? Is a protein a digital educational app? Or is a sugar a social mobile app? Is something like water like like the camera app? These are the kind of things where we need to build nomenclatures around these kinds of habits and start to talk about them instead of just saying it's addiction or not. It's lots of usage or not. We need to get finer grained language and start to understand that the iPhone is just a refrigerator. It isn't the addiction. It delivers food, and we can then choose to pick what we want, what's a protein, what's a fat, from that refrigerator, and then hopefully consume it in the right portions. And then we have a scale to measure ourselves for seeing how much we've consumed each day or each week.
The business models of these companies are predicated on how long we use their products. I mean, do you think Facebook should be telling us how long we've been using Facebook? Should Apple be telling us how long we've been using the iPhone?
Well, first, I think not all of the business models are based on how much screen time you have, right? So some are and some aren't. You have to look at the individual business and figure out what their key metrics are for how they drive their revenue. So I know back in the day when I was at Apple, that was not a revenue driver, was how much screen time people were using, right? And so for Apple, it's more about selling more devices. So if you think about it, I think that users will buy more devices if they have the information and control over those devices. I know a lot of parents consider, should I buy them a cell phone or not, or a smartphone or not? Should I buy them a tablet or not? They would buy multiple devices for themselves, for their family, if they knew they could control them. Today, they're wary because they're like, oh, I have to collect all these devices before they go to bed. I have to set controls on all of them. These controls become cumbersome, extra devices become cumbersome, and I think that's limiting the business potential for a device manufacturer like Apple.
What about Facebook, where the business literally is the more you use Facebook, the more ads we can show you, the more money we make?
Well, I think about Facebook. First, my kids are under 11. They do not have Facebook accounts. They don't have any kind of social mobile accounts. Not allowed. Our family doesn't use them. But at the end of the day, you need to look at the contents of social mobile apps. What is a protein? I think there's a great protein inside of Facebook where you can connect with your family and friends and share stories. Is there a nicotine or sugar component here where there's stories and other ads and other things to distract you, right? So I think we need to look at each app and think about its benefits and its distractions. If you think about it, I get all kinds of different emails to get me to re-engage with certain apps. Or notifications like, hey, did you see so-and-so posted on this? Those are interruptions. Those are kind of like, dopamine hits to get you to use that app more. This isn't something that Apple did. This is something that social mobile apps want you to engage with. It also happens with YouTube. It also happens with games with in-app purchases, or these games that need you to stay around a long time to use them. Or where there's advertising-driven models. So we have to look at each app and understand what is good about it, what's not good about it, where's their interruptions, and then be able to then assess for ourselves which apps we should put on our phones or our tablets, as well as onto our kids.
Have you ever had any personal moments of guilt, like a Frankenstein-type moment, where you say to yourself, oh my goodness, what have we built?
Well, I think, at the end of the day, you look around and you go, my God, the massive amount of the population, over half the world, I think now, has a smartphone. And you go, you're in awe of that. And I think that's great. But there are unintended consequences that come with these kinds of things, and we just need to work on them. If we look at it, there were app stores, and we have great app stores today. And when you look at the app stores, there's certain things that are inside of an app store, especially the Apple App Store, and certain things that aren't. There aren't gambling applications. There are kinds of applications where you can get addicted to, losing your money. But we also have to think about that in terms of what, like I said, these social mobile applications or some of these other ones that have different non-beneficial customer metrics for their revenue. So yes, I always worry about how to improve the technology, and in this case, we have unintended consequences. These are easy problems for the platform companies like Apple and Google to solve. This is not like self-driving cars. This is 10,000 times easier to implement and cheaper. But it can give lots of control and instill consumer loyalty and trust in the brands for their families and for themselves if they can get information and control over their digital consumption.
So give me some specifics. What do you think Apple and Google should be doing?
So, well, specifically, I think that the first thing is they already have all the information across all the devices that you use. So you can have a iPhone, an iPad, an Apple TV, a Mac laptop, and between all of those things, they know how much we're using, how much we're emailing, texting, browsing, these kinds of things. They can easily give us back a calendar of events, just like they do on the Apple Watch for how many steps, how well we sleep, how our heart rate's doing. They can do the same thing and give us our digital information and metrics about our day in a life of the digital world. So it should be a combination in a calendar showing our history of physical use, as well as a physical use of our body, as well as digital use of our devices. And so we can just see how much we're using these devices and then moderate our behavior, saying, oh, that seems like we're doing too much. Or in my case, I'm not using my French language app enough to learn French. So I would love to be able to set goals and set controls on this data to allow me to specifically control how I use these devices. I'd like also a way to set my device so when I'm listening to music, I'm not interrupted, being buzzed or another notification coming in. I just want to enjoy my music without interruption like I did in the old days with an iPod. Or when I'm reading, I don't want to be disturbed. But today we have all these different notifications coming in, all these different interruptions. I would like a single-purpose device sometimes. Well, we get all these notifications. Right when I get it, I would like to say, never give me this notification ever again. And when that happens across all of the platforms, so that I don't have to get disturbed about it and I don't have to go to every single device to turn off these notifications.
You're not just anyone, Tony. You could probably get Tim Cook on the phone in 10 minutes. Have you told this to him directly?
I've told it to multiple people inside of Apple, and I look forward to talking to Tim about it as well. And so, I'm looking forward to that conversation.